You're listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audio book club. Thanks for checking out today's episode of Graphic Novel Explorers Club. I'm one of your hosts, Francis, joined by...
Johnny, Boy Genius.
Yo, it's Dennis.
Today we are discussing The Adventures of Barry Ween, Boy Genius by Judd Winick. We hope you've already read today's title because all three of us have read the book, so beware, spoilers ahead. We would love for you to share your opinions and thoughts with us. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GN Explorers Club. Leave a comment on Facebook or email us at gnexplorersclub@gmail.com. Graphic Novel Explorers Club is available on iTunes, Stitchers, and wherever podcasts are available. If you are from the 90s, like we are, and a fan of The Real World.
Like we all were back then.
Yeah, that's when it was still good.
Yeah.
Judd?
I still remember watching the when they would show all the past Real Worlds leading up to the new one. The marathons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or they would, every 3 or 4 seasons, they'd do let's bring all the cast back together, like the previous casts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the writer and illustrator of today's book, Judd Winick, was on
Season 3.
Season 3, and I think it was 1994.
I
Wikipedia
had just joined. I was in my first command when this season was on. This married couple that I was roommates with had cable, and we would watch that all the time, and we were hooked.
For people who don't know what cable was back then, you had to pay extra for MTV. But so Judd was in season 3 of MTV's Real World San Francisco. Season 3 was very controversial because there was an HIV contestant or a roommate. An HIV roommate. Initially, they did not tell people, the cast, who it was. They just said, you will be living with someone who is HIV positive. And I still remember the first episode. I don't remember this. There was huge controversy over the bathroom because the women said, one of the female roommates, and I don't remember which one, she wanted to segregate the bathrooms from girls to men, which I totally understand. Like, I live with a man and a teenager, and it's gross. But they thought she was trying to segregate HIV. She didn't want to, and it was a huge controversy. And was that the peanut butter one too? Was that the guy? Yeah. Was that Puck?
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. So lots of great, horrible things came out of this season. Funny enough, Judd actually ended up meeting his future wife. She was also a contestant.
And that was a big reveal. That was a big reveal when after the show ended and they did the recap with the cast.
Right.
I remember they pulled her. He's like, and I finally, because Judd would always strike out super fucking hard. Mm-hmm. He had crushes on all the women that they lived with. He was just one of those guys that was just desperate.
He's a comic book writer.
Yeah, he was just desperate to be in love with someone or have someone love him. I think another thing we could add too is we grew up when HIV was first. The crisis first began.
That's a good point.
And it was super, super scary. People didn't know where it was coming from, how you got it. Initially, when we were little kids, it was this thing. I remember my mom being completely fucking freaked out and being worried about when she's like, I don't know what it's going to be like when you are an adult. If this
Everyone's
is going to be some sort of
HIV.
A pandemic thing. Yeah. And people were dying very quickly from it, like Freddie Mercury, Rock Hudson. So when Pedro came in, at this time, there was no cure. It was a complete, or not that there's a cure for it, but now you can extend someone's life greatly.
It's not as big of an issue as it was back then.
Yeah,
and back
it was a death sentence then.
It was even if you kiss somebody, could you get it? If they had a cut in their mouth, that's how they didn't know. How much? I remember in sex ed they were like, how much saliva do you have to swallow to get HIV? It was whoa,
And this was the height of the whole AIDS ribbon.
Yeah, this is when it finally, because Reagan was no longer president, and so there wasn't this
this is Bill Clinton.
Yeah, and there was more movement towards, not that Clinton was a great inclusive person for gay people, but there was more acceptance of hey, this you could touch someone, you could kiss them if they have HIV, and you're not going to die.
Right. The initial panic from the 80s was done, and now this is more awareness and trying to reroute misinformation at the time.
Yeah, and back then people wore condoms because they were so paranoid. Now that's all out the window again. Like they created, I remember Drew Barrymore did like an ad for MTV for the female condom. It was all about
Really?
like,
I don't remember that.
oh yeah, the female condom. They tried to make it the next big thing. And now, when I re-entered the dating world a few years ago, like nobody wears condoms, and I was like, no, we're like, you're wearing a condom.
That's a big problem now. Even when you're addressing like fears of HIV and stuff, because of the medicine that's out there, some people even aren't that scared of it.
Yeah. And I think because they didn't grow up the way that we did. It was on TV, in the movie, like it was like a public service announcement, you know, after school specials, and then Pedro. And unfortunately, Pedro, who was the roommate, he unfortunately lost his battle. But him and Judd became like very good friends, and he actually did some HIV awareness speaking.
Judd
for
was
him.
a big advocate for HIV inclusivity. Like he created one of the first, I think the first comic book character to have HIV for DC, I think.
It was
Marvel.
Green Lantern, yeah.
Yeah, for DC.
And that shocked me. I've always known Judd from Barry Ween, which we'll get into. Sorry, listeners. I didn't realize he has worked on a plethora of other books, and he's continued to write and done very, very well for himself. He actually took on the real world because he was let go from UPS, like a comic book strip he did for them, and he had moved back home with his parents, and he thought this could help bolster his career and just to get some notoriety.
To be on the real world?
Yeah, and it worked. I mean, it's interesting, too, when we get into the book, how he kind of created this. So we can just dive in right now.
No, let's keep talking about other things.
Yeah. So Barry Ween Boy Genius was released in 1999.
It shows.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Francis, you have picked out some of the best books that are the epitome of the 90s.
Yes.
Like what's
Too Much Coffee Man.
Too Much Coffee Man. This one.
The Puppet, the Punch Drunk.
Yeah, that one too. But I forgot about that one. And
Michael Bendis.
Michael Bendis.
No, listen, the 90s were my jam.
Yeah. If anything, this has shown me that you can seem like, and this is a little preview of my opinion, you can be a crappy writer, in my opinion, but then later on, you know, through work, actually hone your skills. Yeah. Brian Michael Bendis' comic was very much like this. Too Much Coffee Man seemed like this to me. But guess what? I don't know shit because those guys went on to write some amazing stuff.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, maybe the 90s was just a shit writing time. Like maybe nobody knew how to write in the 90s.
I think it's that kind of Quentin Tarantino era where the Young Turks were
Kevin Smith.
Yeah, these Young Turks were coming in that were doing shit completely differently, and the powers that be were like, well, those Gen X kids, they're buying this shit. Put it out. We don't understand.
Gen X kids don't want colored pages. They want black and white zine looking stuff.
So I will say, because after I read this time, so I was like, oh, it's going to be a great episode. I was like, oh, God. So this book, it's 3 short stories, and it focuses on, I don't know, he's like, what, 8, 9, maybe 11?
Yeah, somewhere
he's
there.
Preteen.
Late elementary school.
It's Barry Ween. He is a boy genius, but nobody knows. Like, he doesn't even tell his family how incredibly smart he is. So I think I go back to this a lot, just from my perspective of the 90s and as a woman. New Kids on the Block were huge. Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. There was just this mass, like, bubblegum pop production being thrown at you. And then you finally get something gritty. You get something that's not mass produced. And you're, like, so thirsty to, like, especially if you're not part of the glitter eyeshadow boy band, you know, group. Yeah. So I think just that it was something so different for its time, and to be like, oh, I know that guy. I saw him on the real world. He's deep, right?
Yeah. Like, that's probably how he got the 3 issues that got published, to be honest.
Well, no, so there's actually more in this series. Yeah. Because I wanted to record this. Sorry, I'm shouting. I'm all excited again. I really wanted to record this last season, but I couldn't find this book. I found my other one.
You're kidding me? He did more of this?
Yes, and they were all the same.
Yeah, it's weird. It says Oni, but Image was the original publisher of the first 3, and then Oni took over the publishing.
It's not surprising. Well, and then the thing for me that I'm surprised now that there's more issues of it, this was published in 1999. So when did it first start? Was this the first?
This is the first of the series, and so this is how it grew into
Dexter's Laboratory, which was one of my favorite cartoons, started in 1996. He was an evil boy genius. So
Is this a ripoff?
Did that start in 96? Because I was thinking this came first,
No.
and they were
So there's been at least
influenced.
as far as I know, there's two types of Boy Genius cartoons that were very similar to this.
Yeah.
There's Dexter's Laboratory, which is 1996,
and Jimmy.
and Jimmy Neutron, which
Yeah.
was 2002. So both of those bookend this.
There's some incest going on
Yeah.
here.
So it's a trope, you know. Boy is actually a super genius.
Yeah.
But that's
Because
why.
every boy thinks he's a super genius.
But creating it's basically this was like an R-rated version of Dexter minus the sister.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking about penises, which made it seem so 90s. Look how edgy I am. He's saying fuck
Yeah,
or
the
whatever.
kids cussing.
don't get mad, but I just have to ask. Does anyone else see a little bit of Johnny in this character? I just get a little
keep
bit
seeing Johnny
of
in
Johnny.
everything.
Because I just see a little bit
That's
of
hilarious.
Johnny and just because you kind of go against the grain.
Oh.
Like, you know what I mean? You're
Bit of a
not.
contrarian.
Yeah, and this guy's a little short,
I
shorter
know.
than his
Short,
friends,
Yeah,
and he's got some spunk,
Yeah.
and so
I do cuss a lot.
you do. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's just so. So it's 3. We'll get back into the book. The first arc, the first story.
Hilarious. I love it.
Barry Ween, Boy Genius and Time Lord. That should tell you something right there. It's basically, this is where you discover who Barry Ween is. He lives in suburbia with, mom, dad. He has
Yeah.
a perfectly fine family life. He has a best friend and he's a genius but isn't telling anybody. He's building a time machine and he gets a portal into a different time dimension and I swear to God, it looks like a vagina. Tell me.
It even they joke about
Yeah.
it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
I
like,
was
oh,
like,
God.
That's definitely a
I mean,
vagina.
it looks like it was written by an 11-year-old boy, right?
Yeah. No, totally.
You could go deeper and be like, oh, all of creation comes from women. I don't think he was going that way, though.
No, I think you just wanted to draw a time dimensional pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he gets into time, and you guys can interject at any point, but something bad happens. I forget because it's not that memorable.
yeah,
Someone gets
it's-
stuck. His dad gets stuck.
Well, it
Is
starts
that...
growing. He didn't calculate something correctly, so it starts growing bigger than he expected. But he's like, I'm going to fix it. I
Right.
just got to figure out how to fix it. Yeah, his dad gets
Oh,
sucked in.
Wait, I'm sorry. I remember now what happened. His dad didn't get sucked in yet. They call a friend. They call a schoolmate over who they think is stupid to
And
go
to go
in.
in, yeah.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
tie him to the rope and take him in and then see what happens.
I did like the joke in there where he's like, if you come volunteer, I'll do your homework for the year.
Yeah.
Or your math homework for the year. The kid's like, all right. And then he gets there and he's like, here you go. I already finished it. I thought that was pretty
And he's like,
clever.
you're going to get a B. And he's like, a B? He's like, you're getting
Yeah.
a D now. It can't be too obvious. Yeah. There's some clever bits. And there's
Yeah.
another good joke we're going to come to also.
It has its moments.
Yeah. So then, then the dad comes down. Here's the commotion. He gets in. He comes back as an ape. Him and his mom.
I couldn't tell if it reverted him to a more primitive form
I was
of
just assuming
human,
it was just one of those dimensional
or the
things.
dimension
Yeah.
tweaked him.
Yeah.
And so he comes back like a beast, and the mom can't wait to screw the beast, and they go off to.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a critique on being a middle-aged married couple, because the dad, it seems like the wife's completely surprised now that he has a sex drive,
Right.
and wants to bang all the time.
Yeah, so during this time, he's trying to figure out how to fix it, and then all of these people and things are coming through the portal into his basement.
Yeah, all these interdimensional creatures, which reminded
What's
me
that called again?
a centaur.
A centaur. Yes, there's a centaur.
Which reminded me of that episode of Rick and Morty.
Oh, totally.
I was kind of curious. I'm like, I wonder if any of the writers had read this, because there's an episode where these worms can
Replicate.
and they
Create stuff from your mind.
trick you into
Right.
thinking these things have been in your family or your friend for a long time, but they're not. It just reminded me of that.
Barry Ween suits up in an astronaut suit, goes back through time.
Yeah, he has his 2001 A Space Odyssey moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow, I think, so he manages to fix it. He destroys it.
He makes an analogy to, so they keep making references to this portal looking like a vagina, and then he makes a reference of it being, it actually is sort of like a vagina, so I quote unquote fixed it, like he did. like he sterilized it so it can't create any more things. I was like, oh, okay. That's different.
I was getting this book mixed up with the next one. Okay, yeah. So yeah, he does.
So there are
fix
more
it.
issues of this.
Yeah.
I'm still getting. I can't get over this.
So that's it. He fixed it. Everything. His dad will go back to normal in a few weeks.
Yeah, it just. I don't know what the point of that story was, other than to establish.
Well, he's a boy
the main
genius, and he's able
character.
to like the rules of the world, right?
Yeah.
That he can create portals.
Nobody knows who he is.
Right.
He or his genius. You are introduced to his best friend, who's Jesse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who's Hispanic. There's a couple times things are said in this book. I was like, well, this is definitely the 90s.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna get into that right now. This is where in this episode he accidentally turns his best friend Jesse into a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Because of course. So he's in his basement creating something. I don't remember because that's how unmemorable it is. But his friend Jesse comes over and he drinks something by accident.
Yeah, he's creating some sort of, I forget what it is exactly, but he tells his buddy, I need to do something. Don't mess with. Oh, it's a sugar substitute.
That's right. Okay, that's
It's a sugar
right.
substitute.
Popcorn.
And he tells his buddy, I got to go step out of the lab. Can I trust you not to do anything? And the buddy tastes
Of course.
what he thinks is the sugar substitute, but he tastes something else instead.
When he tastes it, he accidentally turns into this huge, giant dinosaur and somehow doesn't know it. Barry has to tell him you've turned into a dinosaur.
A dinosaur that has his hair.
Yeah, he does. He has this little crazy afro, and Barry doesn't have the elixir to fix it. He has to figure out how he's gonna fix it. At first, he's gonna kill him,
Right.
and then he can't. He's just like, "I'm gonna kill you."
Yeah, I think he references Lenny and Lenny from
Mice and Men.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So he decides he loves his friend so much he's not going to kill him, but he ends up getting his mom and dad out of the house because mom and dad are so stupid and easily manipulated. And he starts trying to work on an antidote. And so what he starts doing is he starts cloning him because he can't find an antidote, but he can clone him. And he starts creating all of these other really random
Yeah, one has boobs.
things. Yeah, he even says, he's like, oh, this version of me has a great rack, and
See, I think
there's a dog one, a frog one.
one looks like a reference to the creatures from the Max.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What were those things called? The ids?
Yeah.
Those black and white creatures.
Which is very 90s.
Which is, definitely 90s. I'm sure those guys were friends or familiar with each other.
I feel like this is a plot trope I've seen a lot of times where you try to fix something and then you make clones, but they're all imperfect clones.
Yeah, that was the fourth Aliens movie.
All right. You're right. That's exactly
where they
what
were
it is.
cloning Sigourney.
Ripley.
Yeah, Ripley.
So he finally is able to replicate him identically, and he's going to transfer the dinosaur brain. Jeremy, is it Jeremy or Jesse?
Oh, it's Jeremy. You're right. It's
sorry,
Jeremy.
yeah. So Jeremy into the new clone. So he succeeds. He transfers the brain. And so now he's back to his old self. But now the problem is a dinosaur's loose on the town. He starts running amok through the town. And this part I love. Here's another funny scene. Very few in here. They're driving to try to catch the dinosaur. And there's this old man who sees them. And Barry says, he's like, hey, you know what happens if you say anything, right? And the old man says, Alzheimer's and nursing home. I didn't see nothing. Because people are going to think he's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
So, oh God, this. Okay, so they track down the dinosaur, and Barry's going to kill him to get rid of him. And Jeremy's like, you can't kill him because I was him and he's part of me, blah, blah, blah. So again, he opens up his heart and he doesn't kill him, but they turn him into some sort of little baby
They shrink him
animal.
down, to a little creature. I feel like this story is the one where if Judd was a stronger writer, this could have been developed into something bigger where there is
Elements.
theological arguments or logical stuff that could be said or stuff about who's the real you.
Right.
If your essence is now in a new thing, was the old thing ever you? Or it could have been a stronger story, but I think my complaint about this book is he just wanted to show off his illustrating skills.
Right. Well, it just felt like a zine. It just felt like
nothing feels fully fleshed out.
Right.
The counter argument to that is maybe that was his point. It was just supposed to be stupid vignettes.
Yeah. So I was going to say, back again in the 1999, Road Rules, Real World were like the only really real reality TV. There was no Real Housewives. So there was no mindless entertainment that you could really dive into.
I would say TGIF on ABC.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah.
Mindless.
But this is just an easy, quick read.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
nothing's bad's happening. And maybe that was. And to his credit, like he was starting out, like you said, and he was really getting stuck. Like he didn't know how to move forward. So he's like, it's in the back. We're going to do what we want. So we're going to get into the last story.
Oh, the Die Hard.
But here's the thing. And we talked about this with some other books. This is pre-school shootings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because you'll see in comic books or any like movies, like Die Hard, like a big plot twist was, someone has entered the building with guns.
Wait a minute. When was Columbine? Wasn't Columbine?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Was that
Columbine
before
was
this?
around this time, and then there was
you're right.
there was this first school shooting was in
Sacramento.
near here.
Yeah, Stockton. Right?
No, it was like in somewhere outside of Sacramento, Northern California.
So
But-
back then it was still an anomaly, I think.
Yeah,
it
it
wasn't
wasn't
as
prevalent.
prevalent as it is now. And now, like when I'm reading this in unfortunately our new society where shootings are so common, unfortunately, it gives me a little ick feeling. It's just a little like poor taste, but this was before then. And he actually does a really clever thing here. So we'll just dive in real quick. It's a school field trip. They're going to a museum. Barry has a crush on a girl.
Who the character he has a crush on looks like a 40-year-old woman shrunk down to a kid's size.
It looks like his actual wife.
Yeah, I'm sure that's why he drew
Yeah,
her
she
that
has
way.
glossy hair. She has a scowl on her face.
But she has everybody else. All the other children in there are drawn
Pigtails.
Like kids.
Kids.
Yeah.
She is drawn with like a child's body with a adult woman's
high
sexy face.
cheekbones.
Right.
But I think too, for guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, like one, you think women are a little bit more mature than you are in general, especially like like the goddess, like you can't, like in your mind she's prettier than she really is. That's why I'm with Andy. He has no idea how, like, he just thinks I'm beautiful. So and don't tell him different.
Yeah.
But so they go on a school field trip. It becomes apparent. Jeremy makes fun of him because he can tell he has a crush. But unfortunately, there's terrorists at the museum who kind of take over. Ooh, who's having a party?
I found that.
Okay.
That's from a client. I was using it as see, don't buy bookmarks. Anything could be a bookmark. Somebody's business card is a bookmark.
Sorry, I jumped ahead. This is where it kind of gets a little plot twisty, which is good. Sorry, before the terrorists come in, guy's kind of picking on his crush, and Barry kind of goes and beats him up in a very educated way. It's very Kill Bill. I used 5 touch points on your chest, and now you're a zombie.
Yeah, he goes blind.
Yeah. So the girl, instead of being like, "Oh, thank you," she's like, "I don't need your help. I can take care of myself." And I was like, girl power.
Yeah.
I like it. And that was kind of a thing in the very late 90s, especially with Spice Girls.
Right.
So
Well,
And
also,
Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill.
yeah, Riot Girl movement.
nobody watched that.
Bikini Kill? It was a band.
Yeah.
That's why nobody watched it.
Oh, well, no one listened to that.
They didn't.
People listen to the Spice Girls. Girl power, spice up your life.
Well, I would argue, not to go on a tangent too much, but
Please
the
do.
whole girl power thing was sort of a popification of the Riot Girl movement.
Yeah.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Because again, you have to have glitter eyeshadow, a halter top, and be at 100 pounds to be girl power.
With 6-inch high platform high
Right.
heels.
I think that's when Christina Aguilera came out with like her Dirty CD too. Like very like.
1999, I think she's just still a genie in the bottle.
You think so?
yeah.
So they're starting to. Oh, so that's what it is. It wasn't.
Still just a genie. You gotta rub me the right way.
Oh man.
Listeners, that was not Christina. That was me.
Yeah.
It was Johnny.
Oh my God, what?
Yeah, sorry guys.
Holy smokes.
So I apologize. It wasn't terrorists. It was art. It was art thieves. They're gonna go in, steal the real art to go make a profit.
Yeah, but they're the diehard terrorists.
Yeah. He goes to release one of the photos. There's the camera. They're freaking out. The kids are already starting to leave to go back on the bus. The whole museum shuts down. Some of the kids, Barry Ween, one of them are outside of the museum. They're safe, but there's 5 kids, including Crush Girl, that are stuck in there with the terrorist.
Sarah, that's her name.
Sarah, okay, thanks. So Barry devises this plot. They swim through sewers. They get up to the air ducts, very Die Hard, and they see them, and they like lower a rope to start kind of pulling the children up.
This is like it was a cross between Die Hard and Mission Impossible, because the way Jeremy, his buddy Jeremy, joins him. And he like lowers him in with the rope.
That's straight up Mission Impossible 1.
Yeah. Which actually, you know what, was stolen from another movie from the 60s.
What?
They do the same thing. The whole thing is from
what?
So I want to get into that in a minute. What you guys are talking about. But I'll finish this first because I think it's very important and I think it's very relevant. So they rescue her. They rescue Sarah. And like, okay, let's go. She's like, I can't leave everybody else behind. So they slowly start pulling up everybody else.
Yeah, Barry definitely has no moral compass.
Yeah. Then he's like he shoots one of the guys like, after they free everybody.
Yeah, he's got a tranquilizer gun.
Yeah, there's a huge shootout. There's tons of shooting. He ends up catching the bad guy. I'm going through this quickly because it's super quick and it's really not.
Yeah,
you're not missing anything. And they save the day. And then the girl starts asking like, "How'd you have all this stuff?" And
she's on to him.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I must grab my dad's hiking backpack by mistake." And she's like, And so it's interesting. So, and that's it. Like they save the day and Barry's all happy because he saved the girl. So at the back, it kind of gives the early illustrations of what the characters are going to look like and kind of talks about how he really wanted to do comics. He was tired of doing things that other people wanted. He really wanted to do his own thing. So
he
created
had a comic
this
strip
book.
for a little while, like a newspaper comic strip.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the series. After the last one, I was like, oh, sorry, I picked this. But what's interesting is talking throughout this book, we've made a lot of analogies, and that's a big thing in writing, and I'm guessing with other things too. Is when is it plagiarism? When is it stealing? Versus when it's just there's only so many story arcs that are out there, and you're gonna. I mean, God, The Notebook, right? Like that. That movie's been made 1,000 times. Like it's guy girl love. So, and I haven't seen any controversy with him, such as like stealing ideas.
Judd Winick.
But I do think because if you start making and then another thing too, when you're a writer, you could read something and just like kind of forget about it, but it's in your memory. And later on, you're like, oh, this is like a great idea. I should do this. Not realizing that you have.
Stand-up comics have this problem all the time.
Oh, big time.
Well, so Sam Smith, he just faced this controversy 2 years ago.
He's a singer.
Oh my God, a knife to my heart. But when I forget the name of the song, but they said that he stole it from Tom Petty before he died. And Tom Petty even defended him. He's like, I don't think he meant to steal it. Like he's like, there's only so many chords you can play. He's like, even Tom Petty kind of defended him. Like
Tom Petty's pretty good about that. He did that. The Strokes last night sounds like there's certain parts of that song that sound like American Girl, and he was like, I don't care. He's like, yeah, basically it was just like, if they borrow part of it, that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah. So you were gonna say something about comedians.
Oh, stand-up comedians have that same problem too, where
stealing jokes,
but unintentionally. They'll hear something, they forget about it, and then they start writing, and they're like, they'll ask their buddies, they'll ask other comics, is this somebody's joke? And just so they make sure they're not up there legitimately or unintentionally stealing someone's
but like
jokes.
you said, there's only so many, especially if you're writing about daily life. There's gonna be a joke about Facebook, right? There's gonna be a joke about Tinder and some disaster about that. And
there's always gonna be some guy who's gonna write about like this hero boy and how smart boys are and just nobody knows. Like
So then does that mean we need to give Justin Jordan a break for...
No, he's terrible. I wish he would have stolen people's writing because that was terrible. Oh, my God.
Oh, we love you, Justin Jordan.
Yeah.
We love you. So
I think I'll just say it. I can still defend Michael Bendis. I can defend him till the day I die, but this was pretty crap. Well, not crap. I mean, like, it's not...
It's just
it wasn't the great thing that I had read as a 19-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's rookie writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, he was 29 when he wrote this, if this is accurate, because he's 49 now. So this is about 20 years ago. So he's 29. I would have thought by 29, you would have honed your skills and you're pretty much set and baked. I realize now that that's not the case. I mean, Brian Michael Bendis, we look at this.
And Judd Winick has run several shows now. Like
He ran an animated show, Juniper Lee, on
and a live action
Yeah.
show. I think he's running a live action show
Fun
now.
fact, this was picked up to become a cartoon. It just, nothing panned out with it. But so when it came out, like, there was a lot of interest. It wasn't just...
Well, it's probably because Dexter's Laboratory
Right.
was so popular. They're like, oh, somebody else was like, we can get a Boy
R-rated
Genius show.
Yeah.
Going.
And then to his credit, he's gone on, like you said, to create more things. He wrote the screenplay, and I think he was responsible for the actual issue of Batman where Jason Todd, the one who was killed in Death in the Family, the Robin who was killed, he came back as the Red Hood. And he was responsible for writing the screenplay for the cartoon, Batman Under the Red Hood, as well as the actual comic book issues that drew inspiration from that. So he's gone on quite successfully, much like Brian Michael Bendis, to go from what seems amateur crap to, actual good writing. So, I guess it's a lesson to learn that even when you're 29, on the cusp of 30, you're not necessarily fully formed. Yeah. It just takes practice and honing your skills.
Somebody saw something in him to be like, you keep going, keep creating.
So when I was in college, like not 8th grade, but that was a big thing. My writing teacher would hone in on us writing for publication. He said, like, he used to write for Sacramento Magazine, and he said he was surprised some of the stuff that they carried him through, because he was like, he even talked to his editor, and he's like, I'm not the best writer, like, I'm not the strongest writer, but she said, you understand deadlines, you understand the production work, like you understand these other variables that a lot of people don't get. And she's like, we can work on the writing. It's this bigger picture that you have fully grasped. And I think there's something for that with this.
I have a friend who's an editor-in-chief for a magazine in town, and that's, we were talking about something recently, and she was like, that's one of the things I look for in somebody when I bring them on board is, do they understand the bigger picture? Maybe they're writing, as the editor-in-chief, I can send it back to them a couple times to get it right. But if they understand the bigger picture, I'll bring them on. If they know how to get things in on time and
make
sure like what they're saying supports the brand and their audience.
She's like, I can bring on an amateurish person or a young writer if I can see something in them. So.
Yeah, can you imagine a publication, what kind of nightmare they would have if they had someone like George R. Martin writing for them? I mean, great writer for some people, but deadlines
torture for his fans.
Yeah, non-existent.
And he did come off of real world hype. I mean, maybe that helped. I don't know. Maybe it's something like, this is pre-Instagram.
There's
so I
a
don't
bunch
know.
of there was a guy from a different episode who married from a different season.
He's a politician.
Yeah, he's a senator in Wisconsin.
Yeah, married one of the roommates.
Yeah, the chick that liked Puck. I think she was Cuban or Latin American, something like that. But yeah, there's plenty of people that have gone on to bigger things.
Do you remember the guy who was really into wrestling? And he had the wrestling persona? He actually joined the WWE, and he's still part of the Miz.
That's awesome. So I still remember the very first season, Real World LA, and it is heartbreaking because there was an aspiring country music singer. I don't think he ever made it big, and he fell in love with the roommate, and she was engaged, and he went to her wedding.
Blonde kid, right?
Yeah, and he was just
true story. That guy.
Yeah, but you could see the heartbreak, like just his heart was breaking as she got married, and after that, Real was never. Well, Boston was good. That's it.
I stopped watching. I think Miami
Hawaii
was when I stopped.
Oh, yeah. Miami was kind of... New Orleans was okay. And one of the roommates married that guy from Party of Five.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was just okay.
That's awesome.
But...
All right. Well, Dennis, where can people follow the podcast?
They can follow the podcast at GN Explorers Club on Instagram and Twitter.
Wait, Dennis, would you recommend this book?
Conclusion. No. This is terrible. This is... pure garbage. As a fan of Dexter's, and also I've watched Jimmy Neutron because of my kids, it's terrible. It's just basically an R-rated take on Dexter. The parodies are cute. all right.
There was a couple times I laugh, like when they say things that reminded me from when I was a kid.
Right.
Like, oh, you just busted that guy so hard, or like there's a couple other sayings that they have. It's like, oh yeah, Judd was a kid in the 80s, not in the 90s.
Right. But I will say that once again, much like some of your other picks, it did transport me to 1999.
Yes.
I felt very much like I was walking in the Tower Records, and I picked this up. Yeah. And I was looking at it, I was like, oh, this is cool. I
was like, oh, 23-year-old Johnny's reading this.
Yeah. While I'm listening to Rancid.
So I have...
Or better than Ezra.
Oh, yeah.
I have 2 savers, and this is part of my savers, but this one was also in the plastic backing. Anything that's in my plastic backing was really important to me at one point, and I was like, why? Why is this in plastic? Why? I worship this so much.
I wish you kept a journal from back then. I would love to.
Dear future Francis.
I would just like to get some insight into young Francis and her comic book picks. Like why this stuck out to you.
Yeah, I think it was recommended by a friend too.
Was this Barnes & Noble as well?
So, fun fact, I think I've mentioned this before. Big Brother Comics, owned by Kenny. Mm-hmm. I was his roommate in 1999.
So you could say that you could have poor taste even then.
And there was another comic book before he opened up Big Brother Comics. He worked at this other comic book store, and I used to go there a lot, and they would have all these different things. And again, it was rare to find things that weren't superhero and weren't Green Lantern, weren't Batman. Because you guys, I'm like, meh. Right. Like to find these things. Too. There's another series I started getting into, but I couldn't start from the beginning. I got into it too late, so I never followed it. I think it's called Strange Love or Stranger Love.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a lesbian kind of comic book, which for 1999, it was a big deal. Yeah, who knows what went through my head then. I can't recommend this now, but it was fun to revisit it.
I would say also, once again, it's good to see someone's beginning work and appreciate their current work and realize you can just work at it.
Like the Ed Piskor one.
Too Much Coffee Man.
No. Uncanny X-Men.
Right.
Where you see his drawings from his childhood and teens. And you're like, well, look what the guy can do now. Like these are all prime examples of keep at your art or whatever it is, because you will get to a level where you are deserving of someone's attention.
No, and that is a great point. The Ed Piskor stuff, that's like, I drew like that.
Yeah.
So could I have been drawing better if I just kept at it?
If you were obsessed
Are
with
you going to have more kids?
No.
Just get it right. Like, keep having some more.
No, that's the one point where you just cut your
it
losses.
He's just
JK, his kids are great.
Yeah.
Like they're very talented.
Oh, man.
Probably because of Christy. Not this guy.
That's probably true.
Well, Francis, where can people follow you if they want to follow you? If you want them to follow you.
I do. Thank you. Not down the street, but on social. Words in Waffles on Insta. Where can people follow you, Johnny?
Oh, on Instagram, I finally remember. It's senior_Ewok. And then...
Senor Ewok.
They don't let you do the
little
Enya. Yeah, it's pretty fucking racist, Instagram. But otherwise, it would be senior _Ewok. But Dennis, where can people follow the podcast?
I already said, man, Mr. Senior.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did.
Alzheimer's.
I'm sick. I'm getting over being sick. So
no, that's old age. There's no cure.
Well, it's a combo of the two. There is a cure. I will die someday.
As will I. We'll probably die within
weeks of each other. Yeah. One of us will go first, and the other one will be so heartbroken.
Exactly.
That the other one will die, and then our girlfriend and your wife and my girlfriend will be like, great. We
can sell these useless pieces of shit items.
They died because they loved each other more than they loved either of us, apparently.
It's so true.
Yeah, it's true. But well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah,
thank you.
And welcome back, Francis. For the listeners, they don't know this, but Francis was gone for several months, rehab. And
jail time.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like it because you're listening to this back to back to back, hopefully.
Yeah.
But
and you can't see the jail tattoos she has.
Yeah. The Russian jail tattoos. That's what's weird. Not like
Really?
American jail.
If it's good enough for Martha Stewart, I'm proud to be in that class.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Look who's back again. Shady's back. Francis is back. Oh no, Real World. Wait.
Yeah.
We want to see what happens when 3 people get together and stop being nice and start being real.
Real
Welcome
world.
to
Real World, Sacramento.
Graphic Novel Explorers Club, Real World.
On
Johnny, did you put your finger in the peanut
in the
butter?
peanut butter, I was just
Please make that the cut out its own little sound bite.
yeah.
Oh my
That'll
God.
be the end.
Yeah, you know how disgusting that is?